Hey everybody, I'm AJ Vaden, and today I have the absolute honor of flipping the script and doing a different kind of interview today. I get to interview someone whose story is as raw as it is real and as inspiring as it is instructive. I am talking about none other than the Don Cazedessus, who is the brilliant, the bold, and the brutally honest author of the brand new book, Trailer Park CEO. Now, before we get into this interview about Don and why this book right now and who this book is for, I want to make sure that we just talk a little bit about Don's background. So, whether you have read parts of the book, follow her, know her, have heard of her, and thus are listening to this interview, I do think it's important to share just a little bit of her formal background before we get into what are all the things we need to know when it comes to leadership, legacy, and being a kingdom builder, which is what we're going to talk about today. But Dawn is an author. That's right, you heard me. New book, Trailer Park CEO. She's an international speaker and a kingdom-driven leader who empowers women with faith, purpose, and resilience. From humble beginnings in a Louisiana trailer park to the CEO suite, her journey spans corporate pharmaceuticals, franchising a successful coffee house chain. I didn't even know about that. Building a top-performing real estate team, and leading in executive roles, including CEO of Sterling Surgical Hospital and Regional Director for Keller Williams, where she now, today, oversees 18,000 agents across the Southeast. Through her book, Trailer Park CEO and 12 Stones Coaching, Dawn equips women with biblical leadership principles to lead with grit and to leave a lasting legacy. So this book is not just a memoir. This is a manifesto for anyone who's ever felt like they didn't have the pedigree, the background, or the connections to become something more. And that's what we're going to talk about right now.
AJ, thank you so much. It is truly an honor to be here with you and to be able to share a little bit of my story with our listeners today.
Well, I'm so excited about it. And honestly, I'm excited to learn about all these things that I didn't even
Mm,
know about, but then also to help everyone who's listening learn a little bit more about why this book,
mm,
why right now.
mm.
And I, as a also new author,
Yes.
as my book just also came out,
Yes. Congrats.
I know that this is a journey and it's a
Mm.
calling, it's a commitment. And for those of you listening, if you have the desires and the passions to write a book, then let me just tell you, it is work, right?
Yes.
You have to have real desire to pull this off. And so I kind of just love to start with why this book?
Yeah. Well, you are so right. It is definitely a passion project and a labor of love. And as I was writing the book, I was having to actually apply a lot of the principles and the stones that I talk about in the book to actually write the book
Mm.
because it just took a lot of discipline and a lot of, just that grit that I talk about in the book. But, AJ, I wrote the book and actually it was like a 10-year project of
That sounds
just,
about right.
yeah,
10
right?
years. That's
Of
everyone listening. That's about right.
Well, and I'm sure just like you, sometimes we even have limiting beliefs. Like, does anyone want to hear
Hmm.
my message? And especially in the space that I want it to go into, there's so many personal growth books and self-development books. But as a kingdom woman, I read them all. And I was applying them to my life and applying them to my work and to my career and to my coaching. And then I kept reading and I was like, but I want to know more about that kingdom woman.
Mm.
How do we take what God has given us and apply it? And how is it different? And what does it look like? And I also wanted to come alongside other kingdom women and encourage them and being like, it doesn't matter where you came from, doesn't matter what your past tells you, doesn't matter what programming you have, or what I love what you just wrote in your book about imposter syndrome. Because so many people talk about imposter syndrome, and you said it's basically it's not realizing who our true self is. It's like, who are we? It's living our who we are really created to be.
Mm.
And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to come along and just give encouragement and let people know ultimately that good things can come out of the trailer park.
Oh, I love that. And it's a pretty bold title, Trailer Park CEO. So let's just start right there because those three words alone carry a punch,
Mm,
right? There's some connotation. I'm not going to say negative or positive. I'm just going
hmm.
to say there's some
Yeah.
connotation, some weight that is naturally carried with that. So why this title? Like what does that mean to you?
Yeah.
And
Well,
that clearly I think this is also important since you just mentioned imposter syndrome, right? And this like tying into your identity and where you come from. Like,
Mhm.
how does that all come together?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, fun fact for you, when I kind of announced on social what my title was going to be, I got lots of DMs thinking that I owned an actual trailer park and was wanting to learn how to invest in trailer parks. So let me just set that straight.
Future career endeavor
Future
for
career.
you.
And even though I'm in real estate, and I live in that space, I do not own a trailer park. So that's the first part I
Oh,
have
that's
to
hilarious.
debunk that myth. The reason I put that is because growing up in a trailer park and in rural America, probably like a lot of our people that are listening and watching this, there's just sometimes you're in it and you see what comes out of it, and
Mm.
sometimes it's not good. And sometimes it's a cycle that can't be broken, and generations of families. Matter of fact, coming into the real estate industry, I learned that the number one American dream today is still home ownership. But so many generations in America still haven't owned a home. And that even though in the trailer park world, a lot of people didn't even own their trailer,
Hmm.
they rented them. And so when you're living in that cycle and then you come out of it, you kind of step back and you look and you're like, and it's like looking in that rearview mirror, it's like, wow, there's some big changes that had to happen. And I also noticed that in my own family, cycles weren't being broken. I was actually the first one to step out of the trailer park and go to college. And so as my life, has this
Can I
journey,
ask you a question
yeah,
really
I would
quick?
love that.
What do you think made you different
Mm.
than everyone else around you that allowed you to step up and step out and do something outside of those patterns?
Great question. I believe one, it's God's grace and God's hands of protection around me, first of all. I can truly go back in my life and see where He's done that, but I also believe He does that for others. And so then the next part is that I have been extremely blessed in my life to have other people speak positive into me. And so when, at school, when even as early as grade school, elementary school, I had teachers that actually showed some, like I would watch them and be like, they're different. There's even something different about my teacher. And then as I went into college, just being able to step into leadership roles and people speaking into me. I talk about in my book how important it is to have a coach,
Mm-hmm.
how important it is to have mentors and these peers that actually speak into us. And so I didn't recognize it at the time, though, AJ. As I was going through life, some things you just like, you're trying to process it. And especially, teenager into early adulthood, when we're all trying to figure out who we want to be and trying to unpack all of these things. And especially when you're working 3 jobs and trying to, at least stay in college to pay for it, is that you sit back and you just kind of survive. It's like each day you're just trying to get through it. But when I finally sat back and I started learning a little bit more about reflection, and I was just sitting and I was like, okay, there's some patterns here that are good. While we all have patterns in our life sometimes that are not, there are also patterns in our life that are good. And what we focus on truly does expand. And so I started looking at those patterns and I started seeing these people that actually spoke words of confidence, words over me that made me believe that I was created for more, that I
Mm-hmm.
was more than just the trailer park girl. And so for me, that started changing things because I started to believe it. And so that's why I wanted to write this book. I wanted to encourage people who maybe even didn't have those voices, because some people don't get to grow up in those environments. They have a lot of negativity around them, or people who actually don't speak positive or believe in them. And maybe if they pick up this copy of this book, they'll know that they too can be something and we're
That's
created for
so
something.
good. You know what I love about what you said is it was just reminded me of, even in scripture it says, right? The tongue has the power to
Mm,
build or destroy, right? It's like a flame that can burn the forest down or it can
mhm,
build it up. And I think that's so true. And I love that you called this out because I was thinking as you were sitting here, I'm like, that is blessing and providence over your life to have those people, but for all the people who they're listening to this going, well, I didn't have that,
mhm,
or I don't have that now,
mhm.
what would you say to them?
Yeah. Well, first, I have to go back to scripture and say Romans 8:28 says that for those who love the Lord, good will come out of it. And so, no matter what you're walking through, no matter what covering you have over your life right now, God intends it for good. And so, when we can do what I call the mindset shift, and not a hack, a shift because you're shifting your perspective and we lean in, then we have to believe that good is going to come out of it. And ultimately, our Heavenly Father is where we're going to find the right covering that we need. He is going to be the one that in His Word speaks over us, those things. And so digging into God's Word is obviously the first place. But then second is this is where we have to become intentional. This is where if you don't have it in your life, we do have a choice to be able to seek out those that will speak good. And that's why, we've all heard, you've heard this before, where you're the average of the 5 people that you hang out with. Well, sometimes I'm saying, who are those 5 people, right? And who are you
Those are
leading to?
choices we all
Those
have.
are all choices that we get to
Present
have.
tense, current day.
Yes, for sure. And so for me, I think in speaking into that person that is like, Dawn, you just don't know my story. You don't know where I am right now. And I just want to say to them that, you know what, you're just one choice away from getting out of that. It's a choice.
I think that's so good. And I don't know if you know this, but my sweet and amazing husband, Rory, also grew up in and out of trailer parks his whole childhood.
Mm,
And he, like you, is
mm,
is a testament of choices.
mhm,
It's God's goodness and it's our ability to be obedient to do the things that he says, not what people say, but what he says. And I love that. It's like it's a good reminder of I think too often, and I'm going to say specifically as women, we look for earthly validation
mhm,
versus looking
mhm,
from our heavenly Father
mhm,
validation.
mhm,
Of we're looking what does everyone else have to say about me,
mhm.
and that doesn't really matter
It
because
doesn't.
it's not true
Mm,
and it's not real. But
mhm,
knowing where to go to the source of that, I think, is a
mhm.
really important first takeaway for everyone who is listening to this. It's like, right, that old saying, what you think about, you bring about,
Yes, I
right?
love that one.
Whatever you focus on the
Yes,
most
yes.
is what will happen. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
if you focus on the good, if you focus on the Lord, if you focus on doing what's right, that is what will eventually come
Mm-hmm.
versus the alternative.
Yeah, yeah, you're so right, AJ, and the fact that we have to go back into those moments and actually say what is truth, right? Because we all sometimes we believe the lies.
Yeah.
And so about ourselves or what people say. And I have to always stop and say, okay, Dawn, hold on. I talk about it in the book, keeping our emotions between the lines.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you drive your car, right? You don't want to end up in the ditch, right? And so how do you keep your emotions between the lines? And that is focusing on truth and really saying, what is truth?
I think it's
Mhm.
very hard to discern today.
Oh, it's noisy.
As in any day. I think sometimes it drives me nuts how we often talk about like today is somehow different than every culture in the past. It's just same story, new medium.
Hmm.
You talk about something on this topic of truth and belief systems and
Hmm.
values when you mentioned in the book that you had to unlearn a
Mm.
whole bunch of things to grow into the woman that could write this book
Hmm.
and that could be the leader that you are today. What are some of the things that you had to unlearn that you have found is also common for others to
Hmm.
need to unlearn?
Yeah. Well, I had a lot of programming growing up in the trailer park and abuse and addictions and all of those things that happened that I was surrounded by. I mean, it was a daily thing of walking and stepping out of a trailer and you just look and see what was there. And so that became normal.
Mm.
What I had experienced was very normal to me because that was my world. And so when I had to step out into the world and I had to start seeing things and observing people and recognize that, wait, this isn't normal. Like people don't really act this way or think this way. And so the very first thing that I had to unlearn was what I called my trailer park behaviors. It
Hmm.
was the things that seemed very normal and seemed to like other people were happy with. But for me, I was like, this is not going to serve me. This is not going to be able to get me to be able to make an impact. And so I had to sit back and like, okay, well, how do you unlearn that?
Okay, so tell me what are some of these things?
Yeah.
Because I feel like all of us have trailer park
Yeah.
behaviors or have whatever is that behavior. What were some of those
Okay.
for
The
you?
first one, I will say it's super embarrassing, but I'll be authentic and vulnerable here, was how I spoke. It was like ghetto. It was like
Give us an example,
O
Don.
okay. Well, first of all, So when you're in South Louisiana, AJ, we don't complete our sentences. Like they're run-ons, or like you do a half thought. And because what happens is everyone talks over each other. It's like a good Italian family. It's loud and everyone's talking. And so in order to get a word in, you were just throwing out a couple words and hoping people were catching it. And so I would get into conversations, or I would speak, and people were like, "You never finished your sentence." I'm like, "Yeah, I did. I had a thought. You didn't grab it." And so I didn't know how to communicate effectively. And I talk about in the book that it's so important that we have to learn how to communicate,
Mm.
but not just how, but effectively. And it's not just the words that we say on that come out of our mouth, it's also the words and the things we think inside.
Mm.
And so for me, I had to overcome that. I had to learn how to communicate differently so that one, I could express myself and my thoughts to where other people could really understand. But unfortunately, we all know the saying, first impressions matter, right? It is just truth. And my first impressions probably weren't very refined.
Mm.
And so I had to go and learn how to refine that so that I could at least have a chance,
Mm.
that I can get past the first impression. So they didn't see the trailer park girl. They actually saw somebody with potential. And so,
How did you learn that? Like, and I'm just thinking for myself here, which is I find the best interviews to do. It's like, if I have this question, surely some of you listening have this question is, okay, if I identify a behavior, that's amazing. But I think most of us today don't even know that we have an undesirable or an helpful behavior to begin with. We're so unaware.
mhm.
So how did you become aware this was one of your things that
My
you had?
blind spots?
Uh-huh.
Well, good coaches will
Mm-hmm.
point out blind
That's
spots.
good.
And that's why I'm an advocate. Now, my husband is really, really good at that. He is so good at making sure, which I do love. I do love that he will point out my blind spots because he cares and loves me so much that he wants me to be better. And so he will do that. But in all seriousness, it's when I hired my first coach. Now, before I could afford, because I know some of our listeners are like, okay, Dawn, hold on. I can't afford a coach. Well, before that, I like to say that John Maxwell was my coach for like 20 years. I
Mm-hmm.
read all of his books. I listened. That was back in the day of the Maximum Impact Club, and you popped your CD
Oh,
into the
yeah.
car driving around, and so I would just gobble up all of the
Mm.
information that I could to learn, so that I could recognize that. But when I hired my first coach that really cared enough about my success and who I was as a person, when they started pointing out some of these blind spots, and because I had respect for that person, I was willing to listen, and I was willing to change, and I was willing to do the hard work to change those behaviors. See, really, in order for us to become better, we have to do the hard work to make the changes.
I think that's a really, really good thing that you just brought up. And you won't do it, so I'll do a shameless plug for the new book. But for everyone who's listening, this is a point of reminding that the whole concept of I can't afford it
Mm,
is our own negative self-talk.
yes.
It's like if you can't afford the $25 to $30 to buy a book that could change your life, then work an extra shift, borrow some money from a friend. But we're talking about $25 to $30 for something that can change your life,
Hmm.
right? And there is a
Hmm.
book right now, Trailer Park CEO, that could be one of those books for you. And I don't say that lightly, and I don't say that just because I'm sitting here interviewing you today. I say that because I am proof
Yeah.
that a book can change a life.
Mm,
I can give you a list of 10 books that after reading them, there are pivotal moments in my life where my marriage changed, my parenting changed, my personal life, my health, our business. We did a complete business restructure after one book.
mm,
It's the cheapest
mm,
coaching on the planet.
mhm.
And as again, for everyone who's listening, remember what Don said earlier. This is 10 years in the making. This isn't a blog article. This isn't a podcast interview. This is 10 years of writing, research, planning, but also a lifetime of mistakes
Oh,
and learning
yes.
and coaching and distillation and
Mhm.
investment. So I just want to remind everyone that there is real potential that this is the book that could be that pivotal moment for you. And if not this book, maybe another, but books can change your life.
Mhm.
And that is a form of coaching.
It is. Well, you're so right in the fact that sometimes we have to introduce new thoughts. So we all know we can't control our first thought, but we can control our second thought. Well, what if that second thought looks just like the first thought? Because you don't know. Like I hear people tell me all the time, like, I don't know what questions to ask myself.
Mm,
I don't know, like the I am statements, right? Those affirmations. Like I don't know what to write. Well, books have given me ideas.
that's right.
Books have taught me how people ask
Mm,
questions and
that's so
how they
good.
think, to where I was like, wait, I don't think that way. And I actually want to think differently. So books guide me through thinking differently.
I love that.
Mhm.
And we all need some guidance,
Yes, we do.
right? We all need some
Yes,
guidance.
we do.
Now, something about the book that I think is really important is like there are parts of your story in there,
Mhm.
but this is also a blueprint, right?
100%.
This is a blueprint. And for the person who's listening, who's kind of stuck in, the metaphorical or literal trailer park of their own, what is step one
Mm.
to making that next move?
Yeah. So the first step obviously is buy the book. We would love
Obviously.
them to do that. Obviously, go ahead and get the book, get it pre-ordered or purchase the book, and get it to you, because that truly is the first step of going through it. And what I love about the book is that in the stories that I put in there is just to let you know that I'm probably not much different than anyone else. We all have a story. We all have a background. You might not have come from a trailer park, but you could have come from something else that is holding you back of why
Hmm.
God created you. And I also know this, that everyone's asking the question, like, how can I do something that matters? How do I impact? How do I be able to leave a legacy? And so the book is that blueprint, that manual that's going to guide them. But and with that, so I always say, like, you ever read a good book and when it was over, you're like, okay, well, where's the sequel? Or like when the book's over, you're
What's
like,
next?
wait, yes, what's next? I want something more. And so we also did a guided digital journal to go with the
Hmm.
book, because I wanted to be able to do it for book clubs. If people wanted to get together for book clubs, these kingdom women getting together, or if somebody just was, flying solo. And it's like, but I want something to go with the book that I can actually now take it and apply it. In the digital journal, it's actually beautiful craftsmanship in there that will guide you through each of the stones that are in the book. It'll help you reflect. It'll help you ask some deeper questions, but it will also help you set a goal or an action item to the stone so that you can apply it. That you're not just reading it, but you're applying it to your life as well. So that would be step one.
Mm. Well, and that's a fair step one, right? It's for, and I think that's what's so important about reading books and talking about the books that you're reading is 10 of us could read the same book and walk away with 10 very different
Mm-hmm.
life-changing ahas.
Mm-hmm.
It can't always be a universal step one
Right.
per se, right?
Right.
Now, I have a personal question for you.
Okay.
What is something surprising about becoming a CEO that was unexpected,
Ooh.
right? Like not necessarily about business per se, but in yourself.
Mm-hmm. I will say the first for me is when I stepped into the role, and I recognized that I had the skills. So I had the skill set. That's how I got the job, right? Through the skill set, but I didn't have all the thinking power behind it. In other words, it's kind of like I knew kind of the task. I knew
Mm-hmm.
how to do the practical things, but part of being a CEO is that you got to do a lot of problem solving. There's a lot of unpacking really big, complex things. And I remember the first time I stepped into it, I was like, wow, I might have to up my game a little bit of logical problem solving, because it was like, this is some big stuff. So I think for me, it was that of just, again, having to go back to the vault and say, Dawn, you need some new thinking skills. The practical stuff's good, but you're going to need to build onto some of these thinking skills. So I had to go back to work. I had to go back into making Dawn better. I had to go and I had to start studying other CEOs, start studying how other people were thinking. I was reading journals and case studies and how people would solve things. I was like, okay, I have to grow in order to lead.
Oh, it's so funny you say that. This morning, in my reflection time, I was reading Proverbs 3.
Mm.
And in Proverbs 3, it literally says, do not overinflate your own wisdom and knowledge.
Amen.
And
Amen, AJ.
I literally read that this morning of, hey, what I really heard was, don't think you've arrived. Don't think you can stop learning. Don't think you
Mm.
have it all figured out. Don't overinflate your own wisdom and knowledge.
Mm.
In other words, there's always more to learn.
Always.
What a fun adventure that is sometimes.
Yes.
We tease at our company that CEO really just stands for Chief Everything Officer.
Yes.
Because you have to learn how to do everything and be willing to do
Mhm.
everything. Because I think that's a part of it, right? That is problem solving at its best. And it doesn't matter what your role is.
That's right.
Problem solving is a part of all roles.
Yeah, well, we have people that are looking to us as their leader, and they're coming to us with their problems, looking for solutions. But a lot of time it's collaboration, and so I think that was also something that I learned is that I didn't always have to have the answer, but I had to learn how to collaborate well. And when we collaborate together, that's what a mastermind is, right? Two minds that master together that comes and creates great content. And so I think, those skills have served me well now. I know now to collaborate more.
Mhm.
I know to, as Proverbs also tells us, seek wise counsel.
Mhm.
Seek wise counsel. It's been so.
And, I don't think any of us do that enough.
Mm-mm.
It's, back to another Proverbs, lean not on your own understanding, right? There's a reason it's in there
Yes.
because we are not meant to figure it all out on our own.
Right.
And I love that you've had the passion and the calling to write this book, because really what that's saying is I have learned through myself and through others, and I don't want others to have to do it alone.
That's right.
There is a way,
Mhm.
right? I'm not saying it's a better way for everyone, but there are things to learn here. And I love, and I don't know where I heard this old story, but it talked about how if you've been pulled out of the pit, the purpose of you being pulled out of the pit isn't so that you can walk away in freedom. It's that you can walk away in freedom and know how to return to help others climb out of the pit. And that
That's
you can
good.
help others also
Mhm.
walk out of the pit in freedom.
Mhm.
And that if we've found a way
Mhm.
over something, around something, through something, it isn't just for us. It's for us to go back and bring everyone else with us, right? And that gives you a unique calling for a unique person.
Mhm.
So that's my next question. That's my next question for you. Who is the unique person that this book was written for?
Well, I love that because here at Brand Builders, you guys have taught me that I'm uniquely positioned to serve the person I once was. And I remember when I first heard that here at Brand Builders, I was like, wow, that is really powerful, because so often we are trying to chase something we are not. And I did that for a long time out of shame. I was like, I will not tell you that I'm from the trailer park. I won't talk about my family. I won't revisit those things, because there was this perception in my mind that I needed to be somebody different. And in reality, God kept showing up and was like, I need you to be you. I created you for you. And we're created for his purpose, for his glory. And so it wasn't until I had to overcome shame and really get vulnerable and be like, okay, good can come out of the trailer park, and that I need to stand on that foundation to be able to launch into who I need to be. And so I am uniquely positioned to serve that. In the book, I say it's the single woman, it's the married woman, it's the divorced woman, it is the entrepreneur, it is the homeschool mom, it is the stay-at-home mom, it is that woman that is just trying to make ends meet, the one that's living in her abundance. Because I've lived in all of those now. I've actually been able, God has taken me through so many journeys here this journey of life has taken me into so many different paths that I jokingly say sometimes that my resume is bipolar, because it's got all of these twists and turns. Or maybe it's my next book, it's the rerouting of life. Yet God allowed all of those things to happen so that what you just said, so that when I climbed out of that pit, I can turn around and grab that next woman's hand and say, come on, we can do this together. When we wake up and realize that we're not alone, and that we are here to help each other and to encourage each other and to support each other, we'll get more done and we'll have a life of joy, right?
That's so true. And I love that. And one of the things that I ask authors all the time, and I love that, and I think that's really important for everyone to listen to, is it doesn't matter what stage
That's right.
that you're in. This is for you
Hmm.
in that stage. But one of the things that I love asking authors is, what's your favorite chapter of the book
Mm.
and why? And you can't say all of them. You have to pick one.
Oh.
What's your favorite chapter of the book and why?
Yeah. Oh, that is so hard because, of course, all the stones that I talk about in my book actually, they're so personal to me that, it's like picking your favorite child, AJ. However, if I had to, it would be the fail forward chapter. And because failing for me for a very long time, I mean, you might as well have called it a sin to me. It was like, I cannot fail. I cannot go backwards. I
Mm,
had this idea around failure that was so negative that I was like, I will not fail. And
mm,
it wasn't until I had an opportunity to go to a coaching skills camp and you learn about the patterns of coaching and all. And we actually had to break a board. We actually had to write our biggest fear and be Chuck Norris for the day and just like cut through the board. And I remember sitting there with that board in my hand and being like, what am I going to write?
mm.
And it was the fear of failure. And I remember writing that and just overcome with, being overcome with emotion and writing those words on that board. And then when that person, that coach was holding up that board and I had to break through it, there was something that physically happened as my hand went through that board as I broke a barrier.
Mm,
And I had a mindset shift. And I woke up that next day being like, no more will I be embarrassed or fearful of failure. I'm going to reframe it. And I'm going to say that I have to fail forward in
mm.
order to succeed. And if we look at all of our successes in life, they're just the sum of our failures. We just fail our way to success. And so when I reframed it, I started realizing that I could do more. So I give myself permission to fail now. So
Hmm.
it's become my favorite chapter, I guess.
I love that. And if we don't embrace failure, it's just constant disappointment.
Constant disappointment.
Constant. It's like pretty much every day because I'm the mom of two
There you
young,
go.
very young children. I'm like, well, epic fail, right?
There was that
Constantly.
today.
There was that today. But it is, I think it is one of those beautiful things. Like, if we just understand, it's like failing and
Mm,
failure
mm,
are two very different
very
things.
different. Very
So,
different.
how would you define those two very different
Yeah.
things?
Well, failing would be the person that continues to stay in doing the same thing over and over again, like that definition of insanity,
Mm,
but they're expecting that a different result. And you have to make a choice to make a shift. And so when if we're in a failing relationship or a failing business, there are things that we can do to go and correct that. But some people are so comfortable sitting in failure.
mm,
It becomes so comfortable to them that they actually don't want to get on the other side of it. Failure says it's a period at the end. It done. I've learned from it. Matter of fact, we have an acronym that we broke down for it where FAIL stands for first, you got to forgive yourself because it's the hardest thing, and especially as high powered women, we're like, it's like forgiveness of that. And I'll forgive you, but I can't forgive
mm.
myself. We are so hard on ourselves. So it's really forgiving it. And then it's accepting it, just acknowledging it. It happened. It's real. I don't have to sugarcoat it. I don't have to change it. Just owning it and accepting it. And then I look at the I in fail as inspect. Okay, what do I need to
Yes, I'm
inspect
going to have
it?
to write this
Yeah.
down.
and
I'm writing
and
this down.
inspect it. Just like really look at this failure and saying, what do I need to understand about what happened? And the L is for learning. See, the difference between failure and failing is the learn part. It's that L. Because learning says I'm going to learn from it and then I'm going to be wise and obtain that wisdom to change the pattern. And I can recognize it, I can forgive it, I can accept it, but I got to learn from it so that I can move forward. Now, if I keep repeating the same thing over and over again, somewhere in there, I skipped a step.
Hmm.
Maybe I didn't forgive on it. Maybe I really didn't accept it, or maybe I didn't inspect what happened or I didn't learn from it.
I love that. I wrote that down. I'm going to go back and teach this to our team. I will give you credit.
Yeah.
However, but I think and honestly, the forgive yourself part, I think is huge because from my own personal experience, I can't accept it, inspect it, or learn from it if I cannot get past that forgive myself for
Yeah.
the thing. Right. And it's like, you just, you ruminate
Hmm.
in that replaying and
Hmm.
you can't get past it.
No, and it shows up as shame, AJ, and it cripples us. And we
I
sit into
love
our
that.
rooms, and the lack of forgiveness of failure leads to shame. And we know the shackles that get put on us. Brene Brown talks about this at length in her books, right, in her research. But shame begins to put these shackles on us, and next thing you know, we can't even get past it.
Mhm.
We're like the Christmas Carol, right? We're Scrooge carrying all of this luggage into the next thing, and it's like, wait, hold on, God does not intend for that to happen. Matter of fact, that's why he died. That's why Jesus was sent for us and died on the cross, so we didn't have to carry that. And so for me, that's the forgiveness part is huge, so that we can release those shackles.
Yeah, well, I think that's huge, and I love that that's your favorite chapter. And then the piece of forgiveness in that is not something I've heard a lot of
Mm,
people talk about. So I love that. Forgive yourself, accept it, inspect it, and then learn from it.
mm.
So good. Okay, I know that we're approaching the end of our time together here today, but I've got one last question for you, and then I've got a couple of things for all of you listening. So here's my last question for you, Don.
Okay.
Let's say everyone listening, because this is what's going to happen, go buy the book. They read the book, which is the most important step. Don't just buy it, read it. At the end of the book,
Hmm.
what would you have as your biggest hope, your biggest dream, the biggest goal for someone to move forward and do differently, think differently, act differently, live differently? Like at the end of the book, what is your hope for the
Mm.
reader?
Mm. I thought a lot about that one question, AJ, in writing the book, and thinking about as you close the book and you've read that last word in there, what would be left on the person? And ultimately, it's to know that no one is a mistake.
Mm.
Your situation, how you came into this world, or even the mistakes that you've made in your life are not defining you today. And so my ultimate hope is that we can all step into why we were created. What is our purpose? And that we all are here for something very, very important and significant. While mine might be an author and might be doing the things that I'm doing, but I also know that as a mom, that has been one of my greatest seasons in life as in my purpose. There's for each of us, we have a purpose and we get to walk in that. And I would love it if they did that joyfully.
Mm. Well, I will come along and say that would be my hope for all the readers of this book as well, because that is a life changing hope.
Mhm.
All right, y'all, so good. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're barely scratching the surface here. But, Don, I just want to thank you for your courage and your candor
Mm.
and sharing what you would consider embarrassing. I did not consider it embarrassing. I was waiting to hear about nudity in public, or,
Oh, there
I
might have
mean,
been
who
some of
knows?
that, AJ.
I don't know what I was expecting, but yours was very tame, very appropriate. But thank you for letting us into your world and not the pretty polished version, but the
Mm,
one that actually helps make real change. And
mm,
like you said, Trailer Park CEO, this is more than a title. This is a declaration that where you start does not limit where you can go.
mm,
And if you're listening right now and there's something inside of you that says, you know what? This book is for me, then I just encourage you to follow that intuition because maybe it is. Maybe this is the book for you that could be that life changing book. And so I want to give you a couple of quick action items from here. Step one, if that's you, then get the book, then read it, share the message, and then be a part of the movement that Don is trying to create and lead. And here's how you can do that. There's a couple of things here. Number one, you can join the 12 Stone launch team. And that's going to help you connect with like-minded women who are committed to stepping into leadership, growing their confidence, creating lasting impact. But this is community. This is allowing you to step into a place with other people who are feeling the way that you do right now in this season and reminding yourself that you don't have to do it alone. Number two, when you're ready to really dig in, then start that journal that Don mentioned
Mm.
earlier,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a digital journal that will help you reflect, set goals, and really apply the principles of this book. So don't just read the book, right? Just like we just talked about it, inspect the book, learn from the book, right?
Yes.
And actually start making some of those life-altering changes that you looking at your life a year from now, 5 or 10 years from now, can reflect back and be like, that book, that was one of
Mm-hmm.
those moments for me. But
Yeah.
that only happens if we actually do something with what we learn. And then last but not least, as you can order the book today and actually start reading it now.
Yes.
You get some early access chapters. You don't have to wait, right? There are some things that you can start doing right now. And I believe that if you order the book early, you're going to get 1 chapter, 2 chapter, 3 chapter. How many chapters?
3 chapters.
3 chapters
3 chapters.
that allow you
Mm.
early access reading so that you can start reading the book before the book even comes out. And again, these resources are here to equip you and support you as you start these next steps into fully stepping in to the leader that God made you to be. Now, there's a couple of quick things that I've suggested, but Don, are there other things for everyone who's listening that they can also partake in as we ramp up to the launch of this new book?
Yeah. Well, we did not want anyone to like read the book and just be done. We want this to make an impact. And so we actually have some bundles that we've maybe you have a sister or a friend or a niece or someone that you would like to buy this book for. So we have an opportunity for different bundle packages that people, depending on what stage or season of life that they're in, they can get. And in those packages, you're going to get, of course, the digital journal. You're going to get a really cool quote book that we created that pulls out all the call outs from the book and allows for you to reflect on those as well. We have an opportunity with one of our bundle packages that you can get 6 months of group coaching from 12 Stones, where these principles will be applied into your business and into your life. We've also recorded a 3 course masterclass that is around that are all around that's around the 12 stones that we've talked
Mm.
about, that breaks it down even more for them. So those are some good assets that they'll get to keep their learning going, and also to just encourage them to be a part of our community, because it's not a one and done.
Yeah.
This is not an injection. This is a lifestyle that we took us a long time to get us to where we are in our life. Now we got to go work on becoming who we want to be. And these bundles are all packaged to help you become.
Well, and I love that you mentioned that. And I think there's 2 things that you just shared that I want to call people back to is during the interview, we talked about how a huge part of realizing how you got to where you are is you didn't do it alone.
No,
You had
no.
coaches, which is
Hmm.
a part of why group coaching is being offered.
Hmm.
You had mentors. You read books before you could afford all of that. You said you were reading books,
Hmm.
right? So there's a lot that's kind of being instilled into how can I pay it forward,
Hmm.
right? How can I give
Hmm.
you the book, but then also give you additional resources with a master class and group coaching and all these other things that it's not meant to be done alone. And one of the things that I think is cool about doing the bundles is what Don mentioned is, yes, buy one for yourself, but what if you could buy one for 5 friends that you could read this together, right? Come
Mm,
together as women in leadership, and that could be leader in your home,
that's
leader
right.
at work, but just a leader. And how can you step into this, not by yourself, but actually do it with a group of powerful women that you want to be in community with?
Hmm.
And if you can't find those people in your life, then buy the 1 copy, join the community
Yes,
group,
yes.
right? But if you can, do this as a group. Do this with at least 5 other women and just see
Hmm.
where it takes you from there.
Hmm. That would be my greatest desire. And then we do have one option too, AJ, for that individual who is wanting to be all in. And that's our Kingdom Women Business Leader Mastermind. That is our 4th package. That is what we call the Kingdom package. And they will actually can get one-on-one coaching with
Mm.
that package, and being able to dig deeper into even personal things together. So it's all designed for whatever season and stage of life you're in.
What I hear is there's something for all of us,
All of us.
regardless of where we're at. If
Yes.
it's the book
Hmm.
or if it's one-on-one coaching or group coaching, there is something to meet you exactly where you are.
Definitely.
All right, y'all, this is just the beginning. This is, like I said earlier, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just the beginning. Dawn, is there any last kind of farewell message that you want to
Mhm.
send before we sign off?
I do. I'd like to say inside every woman is a leader.
I love that. And that's true. That's
Mm.
truth.
Truth.
With a lot of untruths, that
Yes.
is truth. And I would just encourage everyone to just remember that you don't need permission to rise. You just need belief. You need
Mm.
boldness and a blueprint. You need a plan.
Yes.
And that is what this book can do for you. Dawn, it's been an absolute gift to get to know you better, to get to know the heart and the desire behind this book. So everyone who's listening, follow her, support her, and go become what you were meant to be. And don't forget to pick up that copy of your book at trailerparkceobook.com. That is trailerparkceobook.com. Grab your book, start reading now, tell your friends, and let's start an entire generation of kingdom leaders.
Mm.